All right, everyone, we should be live. Let's make sure that's actually the case because I'm getting a little bit of a glitching here on both ends, actually. It took longer than normal for the StreamYard to begin, and I'm not seeing the little recording in process or standby thing on Rumble. So we got to make sure that we're actually live there. I see chats working, so presumably we're live on Rumble. But let me refresh this and just make sure. Yeah, okay, we're live there. I don't know exactly what happened. Oh, well, whatever. Anyway, we're going to launch right into the news. We're going to start off by talking about the Twitter files, of course, the Twitter leaks that are currently going out. There probably will be more later today. There may be more tomorrow. I'm not sure exactly how many batches Elon Musk is planning to release. And apparently doing it with different people makes it harder to shoot the messenger, I suppose. Here's the WAPO's little bit on it. Ironically posted on Twitter, of course. That's the only place anyone sees them anyway. It was billed as a bombshell. Elon Musk would finally expose how Twitter engaged in free speech suppression in the critical run-up to the 2020 election. But by the time the dust settled Saturday, when dust settling is used as a term, usually you're looking at propaganda, by the way, I've noticed. Even some conservatives were grumbling that it was a dud. Yeah, Liz Cheney is not excited over the Twitter leaks, over the Twitter papers. I wonder why. Oh my goodness. That's basically the long and short of it. The amount of cope and damage control that we're seeing right now is probably a drop in the bucket compared to what we will see. If Musk is wise, and he's doing this for strategic reasons, partially to kneecap people that are critical of his running of Twitter. He's laying waste to people who have been pounding him anyway. He will do effectively what Snowden did. You know, remember when the leaks about the government, the NSA leaks came out? What did Snowden do? He released a batch saying, look, the government's looking into your data. And the government responded by saying, no, we're not. We're only collecting metadata, and it's only pertinent to foreign targets. He then held back a second drop, showing that that was a bald-faced lie. Actually, it involved more than metadata. It involved more than foreign targets. 5 or 6 times in a fucking row, the government was caught with its pants down lying about the NSA spying to the point where it led to a filibuster within Congress. It led to a budget debate in the Senate specifically. Now, at the 11th hour, Ted Cruz threw the nation under the bus by putting a Band-Aid on a gaping wound, for which I will never forgive him. But there was an actual fight over it. That would not have happened if he had simply taken everything, dumped it all in one go, and let people parse through it. Because then the government can respond to every particular claim, and it can mince its words in such a way that it doesn't seem like it's kind of sort of quite lying. He, I believe, is doing the same thing and doing it for strategic reasons. So hopefully we get another batch fairly soon here. We've got some super chats. Steady Eddie, 1983, left. The Constitution is an outdated document written by white racists. Also the left. OMG, we're upset because Trump said to suspend the Constitution. Yes, I will be getting to that momentarily. In fact, let's go into it right now. Jeff Tiedrick, we're archived, of course. I don't want to give him any extra followers. Democrats are outraged that Donald Trump called for terminating the Constitution. Republicans are outraged they can't see Hunter Biden's dick. Any questions? And my question is, you managed to work in 2 gaslighting straw men into the same thing. You're rather talented. Aren't you too talented to be a fucking leftist? Why is your career only on Twitter, a site that you now claim to hate? That would be my question to Jeff Tiedrick. Of course, he won't answer that question. But yes, the Democrats are pretending that the Hunter Biden thing only has to do with Hunter's dick, supposedly. Of course, that's a straw man. That's not actually what anyone is legit concerned about. They're concerned maybe about the suppression of that material since it wasn't hacked. That's literally why it was banned. I think it has more to do with the business dealings, or the fact that Joe provably lied about his business dealings, or the fact that Twitter was helping cover up the fact that Joe Biden lied, or the fact that the FBI was directly involved with the whole process. Those are meaningful. Hunter Biden's dick is meaningless. Okay, he dicked a bunch of prostitutes. Nobody really gives a shit. They do care about who Joe Biden was dicking, at least if they read Ashley Biden's diary, of course. Anyway, here's my thoughts on the Trump Constitution thing. Donald Trump did not call for suspending the Constitution, just to be clear. If you read his actual Truth Social post, it has absolutely nothing to do with that. It's a suggestion that the system was Hong-Konged in 2020. Twitter leaks have shown that at the very least there was influence over the election. We're not claiming election integrity issues, but there was definitely an influence over the eventual results by the withholding of pertinent information from the U.S. public. Trump naturally is outraged at this, as should any U.S. citizen be, including if you fucking voted for Biden. Okay, you voted for the dude. Let's say you still support him. You still should have been given this information prior to the election. The FBI deliberately tried to cover it up in collusion with a bunch of billionaires and moneyed interests. This should bother literally every American. That's what's meaningful. But Trump's statement is only loosely able to be construed as questioning the veracity of the U.S. Constitution. What he's saying is that if you have a situation where honking has gone on, and he's going further than the Twitter leaks and influence over the election, he's talking about outright fraud. That if that were the case, that the legal system in some aspects becomes delegitimized. He's not actually claiming that he wants to suspend the U.S. Constitution. If he were, nobody would support the idea. I wouldn't. I'd vote for Trump right now if I had the chance. But if he were to come out and say we need to suspend the Constitution and go full Pinochet, I wouldn't support that. This also is another example of the far left toying with the same claims that the alt-right made, which was that God Emperor Trump is going to come along and magically solve all of our problems. He's going to override the Constitution and SCOTUS, ignore Congress and stuff. He'll be like Andrew Jackson on steroids. That was never going to happen. I told people both that supported or reviled Trump that it wouldn't happen, and it didn't happen. Neither would the suspension of the U.S. Constitution happen because Trump makes a Truth Social post. It's just not going to occur. The idea that it's a threat to democracy or that he's anti-Constitution is especially funny because the worry is coming from people that openly hate the Constitution. As was pointed out earlier in a super chat, some of the people that are whining about this have openly stated before, hey, the Constitution is outdated. It was written by a bunch of old white dudes, prior to the invention of the internet, so it's not even valid anymore. They're constantly saying the First Amendment shouldn't apply, for example, to the tech public square. Second Amendment only applies to muskets. I guess the right to privacy is in hazard there too. Would the 10th Amendment only apply to the original 13 colonies? What about the amendments that were added later? They have open hostility towards the U.S. Constitution, but they're making believe that Donald Trump has hazarded it. And the reason why they're doing this and why the legacy media is not even bothering to present the entire original quote is because they're hoping to do what they did before. You tell a lie, you tell it loud and proud, you refuse to acknowledge that you're lying, which all of these different groups are about what Trump said, and you're hoping that the passive audience will simply imbibe that as the truth because all of the outlets say it's true, so it must be true. CNN and Fox agree that Trump said we should suspend the U.S. Constitution and reinstate him as dictator. Well, clearly it's true if CNN and Fox agree, even though their parent companies work together, because they're totally at opposite ends of the political spectrum. It's horseshit. Kyle Miller, I find it funny that the left and establishment care about the Constitution now that Trump called for parts of it to be terminated. Well, he didn't call for that. Read his entire quote in context. Pagan Gorilla, been a long time since catching you live. Thanks for the daily info. Thank you. Shaqi Dogmeyer, can we get an SPF Maxine Waters ticket for 2024? She probably would be willing. Mr. Wonderful, seeing plainclothed police forcing farmers into vans in the Netherlands is a new level. Packing up the family to the U.S. if it worsens an option? Yeah, I mean, we can go back and forth all we want, but I don't think that tyranny has yet come to the Netherlands because people seem to be awfully fucking pissed at the government right now. Zorro's Racing Pigeon Loft. Always enjoy listening to you and glad I can now catch you live on my way to work. In Bernie Sanders' voice, I once again am asking for your shout out. Okay, so we've got Zorro's Racing Pigeon Loft. Shouted out by Bernie Sanders himself. Mr. Doc. With the Moore County Strong story, I lean more towards gang violence. My cousin has a video of her and other cars shot at a road with Nerf and pellet guns in a likely gang training where they had gas masks and no tag report was filled. It could be gang related. It probably is an act of outright terrorism. We just don't know exactly who done it. All these people are simply pretending it had to be right-wingers because there was a drag show roughly concurrent to that time. Yes, that was the only thing happening among the 100,000 plus individuals that are impacted by the substations getting shot at. That was the only event that night. It couldn't have been about anything else. Not a banned account. Can Trump supporters be arrested to protect the USA? Many such cases, actually. Steve Polychronopoulos, Sticks, can you please explain the Andy 6 creamy log origins? I see all the memes, but I know nothing of 6 or how the joke came to fruition. The origin story of that joke is that a lot of the fangirls of Andy 6 many years ago were really hyperbolic, and they wanted him to knock them up and shit like that. Like they were doing the fangirl cringe ass thing. And so it was invented the concept that there were people that were so into Andy 6 that they literally wanted to gorge on his poop. And it sort of lost control from there and has become the ultimate meme of memes. And it ain't going anywhere, Eustace, just to be clear. Next news story. We've got another representative weighing in on Biden, Joey. GOP Rep. Tenney says Joe Biden should be impeached. And part of this is because of the shenanigans going on with Twitter. I happen to agree. Impeachment is not something that should be waded into solely for political reasons. Like if you say like, well, Joe Biden, fucked the economy, we should impeach him. It's not impeachable. It might be incompetence, although there are 1,000 other people involved with that I will mention, but it's not impeachable. I would say that he reached the threshold of impeachability on student loans with the attempt at race-based farm aid that was shot down by the courts, with the attempt at race-based restaurant aid, various elements of unconstitutional discrimination, the overuse of the EO, etc. But what we see with the Twitter files is that Joe Biden was engaging in a pattern of criminal behavior before the election even culminated, that he he won. As such, that being the case, it is impeachable, to be clear. He did commit a high crime and misdemeanor. That's a threshold. And the House can have a simple majority vote, 50% plus one, and impeach whoever they want. They impeached Trump twice on false pretenses. Some Republicans joined them. I don't think any Dems would join the GOP in doing this. The hazard is this. Here's the problem. You have a fairly thin majority within the House of Representatives. Biden is unpopular, reigning over an economy likely to get far worse. He has done impeachable shit. You have to be damn sure before you call a floor vote that you have lock, stock, and barrel all of the GOP aboard with actually impeaching him. You can't have more than a couple of people that straggle. If you have more than 2 Republicans with the current incarnation of the House that vote no, if 3 Republicans join the Democrats to vote no, it doesn't carry. The Republicans will effectively be committing political suicide if they attempt an impeachment and are absolutely sure that it will follow through. They should do a lengthy series of investigations, shining light on the Twitter files and much more, investigate J6, et cetera, look into censorship and political persecution. That's number 1. And then at the end, when you inevitably find impeachable high crimes and misdemeanors, we already know that, then you hold the vote. You're going to end up having to convince multiple neocon members of your own House GOP to vote yay. It's going to be more of a problem with them than for many of the Democrats. Troy Neenan, China, LA, and UK are no longer an Orwellian dystopia. It's Clockwork Orange. If you were a futurist, where do you see the world in 100 years? I think the world will still be here. I'm not so black-pilled that I think that it would be all fucked up. Otherwise, I wouldn't have had a child. Ozzy's Robots, 87,000 new IRS agents. One will surely unravel FTX. Lol. Well, it's not all agents, to be clear. Some of them are janitors and paper pushers and stuff. Only a few tens of thousands of those are audit-capable agents. And it's hazarded. The GOP says that one of its first orders of priority, and I really hope that they're serious about this, otherwise I'm going to be really fucking mad and rant about it repeatedly, is to shut down the IRS expansion. Let's hope that it happens. Troy Neenan. It will take 50 years for the law to catch up to tech because everyone who understands the tech isn't old enough to be the majority. True. Lance Johnson. Would love to see you on Adam Krigler's podcast soon, Sticks. Yeah, I'd like to go on his show. Will Gooding, Sticks, did you see the post Elon made on Twitter about getting Doom to play on Hunter Biden's laptop, complete with pictures? The tweet was later removed for some reason. Yeah, he's toying with people and having a good time. Just because you're massively wealthy and you're mainly in it for the money doesn't mean you don't want to have a little fun. Not a banned account. Is the US dollar collapsing and the future doomed? The US dollar is having problems, but then again, so are most currencies. Look at the Turkish lira right now, for an example. Stanky Pusia, what kind of Nescafe Gold would you suggest? I didn't know that there was more than one kind, actually. Liz got me a French press, so I'll be doing that fairly soon. The Styx Hexen Toolbox, be our king again. We've captured the nails and offered them to you as slaves. They are yours to beat on and suppress however you wish. Wouldn't be a Styx stream without the toolbox references, by the way. Oh, next story is a good one. Nick Sandman is now joining the legacy media and big tech dogpile with regards to releasing hidden Twitter files on death threats permitted against him. Yes, you'll remember it. I think Tim Pool actually had her on the show the other day. One of the people working with Twitter that personally weighed in on some of the lack of bans for death threats thing said, well, we didn't ban these people because, it's exceedingly rare that we, fully ban accounts for making death threats against people. And I'm thinking to myself, people that made comments that only loosely could be construed as threatening in any manner, let alone actual credible, actionable death threats, have been banned all the time off of Twitter. So I wish Nick Sandman well. And I think Kyle Rittenhouse actually also has similar designs. I think they're going to be looking to these releases with bated breath. So yes, I hope that they manage to sue some of the former Twitter employees. And by the way, the legacy media. The legacy media is implicated more than any other singular group so far in the Twitter file releases that we've seen. I haven't quite gotten to the FBI part of it fully yet. Katie Hobbs has been implicated. Not for the midterms, though, for 2020. Remember, of course, she was still overseeing the state election in her role there. It's interesting that she was allowed to not recuse herself from that role in an election which she was standing for office in. But yeah, it's Arizona. No surprise. I am not your kind. I am a new subscriber. Dig your stuff. Talk hard. Thank you. Yeah, some people are ridiculing Kyle Rittenhouse for having like a TikTok, model or whatever as a girlfriend or, fuck buddy or something. I don't give a shit what he does in his personal life. I mean, his old handle was 4 doors more whores. So yeah, he's has a certain kind of woman, I suppose, that he's got in mind. That's okay. She's definitely punching upwards because he's going to be massively wealthy after all the defamation suits he probably is going to get into. Apparently, he's actively planning that. Hopium Gardner, if it were to happen, would you support a Trump Yee ticket in 2024? I think that might go a little bit far for me. Of course, there's no possibility of Trump taking on Kanye as his running mate. I think it'll be someone like Tulsi or Carrie Lake. I hope that it's Rand Paul. It's possible that it'll be someone like DeSantis. Ted Cruz is unfortunately in the running. I don't even know. I support Trump. I want him back in office. I want him to be the next Grover Cleveland. I'll definitely vote for him. But I would have some hesitation if he were to take someone like Cruz or Rubio as a running mate. I don't think that it's likely, but it's possible. His name is mentioned sometimes. I think DeSantis would be a competent choice. Carrie Lake would be fine. Tulsi Gabbard has more or less redeemed herself on the gun issue, so tolerable, I would say. It'd be funny if he asked Mike Pence to do it again. He'd say, hey, Mike, you want to get back together? Yeah, baby. And this will be hilarious. Russ never sleeps. We need a new Pixel Planet mission. Right now, it's just people slowly pixeling in all of Africa with the red and gold. Next news story is propaganda. Hate speech dramatically surges on Twitter following Elon Musk takeover. New research shows. Guess where the research is from? Oh, the Center for Countering Digital Hate and the Anti-Defamation League. Yeah, the ADL totally has no personal gripe with Twitter after Elon Musk personally weighed in on their founder trying to haze him. Yeah, that's totally fine. New research shows. What research? They're saying that it's up by 60% against gay groups and LGBT people and stuff. Okay, where's the actual documentation of this? I'm not going to take the ADL at its word. And by the way, I don't give a shit. Your idea of what constitutes hate speech against gay people would be I refuse to suck a dick or something like that. Your idea of what constitutes hate speech is what the average person would simply find maybe mildly offensive. Oh, Paula Deen telling a joke back in the 1970s is considered current hate speech and a reason for mass deplatforming. Why should I take these morons seriously at all? Sean Meyer. Shout out, please, to my friend Jody. He likes PPs. Okay, shout out to Sean Mayer's friend Jody. Devin Selnez, Yee is trolling, obviously. The cabal is real. Troy Neenan, Kanye is going to have a stroke when he gets back on meds. Did enjoy seeing Alex Jones' soul leave his body. Kanye for vice president be lol. Yeah, that would be, I mean, it would be humorous, but I don't think that I could vote for such a ticket, even though I want Trump back. If he goes off and he chooses someone who's uniquely unqualified, and Kanye is, I think he's funny. I don't believe in him being deplatformed. I have no problem with him. But he's not qualified to run the fucking country, and people pretending that he is are, I think, a little bit cuckoo or just grabbing attention. Ted Cruz, again, even he would be questionable in my mind because I'm looking at his age, Trump's. He's in his mid-70s. Although he's slimmed down and he looks pretty healthy, you know, for his age at this point, he could die in office. The same is true of Biden. Biden could keel tomorrow. He could die in his sleep of a massive hemorrhage or something, and we're left with President Kamala Harris. Boy, oh boy, wouldn't that be a good fucking time. Johnny Midlar, would you be interested in having Dr. Shiva back on if the opportunity came up? Been a while since you spoke, and he's been heavily involved in the anti-censorship battle. Yeah, I would consider having Dr. Shiva back on. He was a cool guest. Motherfucking Damien, another substation was disabled via gunfire a few years ago in Cali. Pretty sure it was never solved too. New trend? Yeah, that one apparently the person escaped through a sewer system, if I remember correctly. I can't exactly remember. That brings us to our next story. North Carolina power outages investigated as criminal occurrence after substation damaged by gunfire. Sunday evening curfew in place. Now, first, I don't know, why are you imposing a curfew? What's the fucking point? To keep people off the road so they can't shoot the substations? Because if that's your solution to solving the problem, you're going to end up needing that curfew for a very long time. Well, we figured that they're probably middle-aged males, so we'll keep the curfew in place for like 40 years until they're probably dead. Be funny. One of them's still alive. He looks like fucking old wise man or something like that. He's got massive ass beard. Looks like Rip Van Winkle. And he says, I'm going to go out with a bang. And then he just grabs his shotgun. And he gets behind his SUV and goes to the substation anyway. That'd be funny. Here's the problem. Our electrical infrastructure is not hardened properly. It's not defended properly. It's too centralized, number one. Number two is the propaganda that's happening in the wake of this. The story itself is concerning. You've got the tens of thousands of people without power. In fact, I think it's over 100,000 as of the last check. That's pretty devastating since all they had to do was fire a few bullets at it. Now, some bullets are pretty expensive, but still, the amount of damage done to the economy, to society, and to the infrastructure based on a handful of shots being fired is freakish. Imagine it's like the economical equivalent of deploying a fuel air bomb or something like that. This should worry more people, and I've been saying that for some time. The propaganda in the wake of it is that people are immediately, they jumped on this AstroTurf line that there was some sort of evidence that it was MAGAs that did it. Oh, those evil MAGA extremists, they were trying to shut down a drag show. They realized that there was a drag show somewhere in that particular vicinity and said they put two and two together in their pea-brained minds and said, well, it's obvious what the motive was. They were trying to inconvenience some drag queens. That is clearly the motive. Now, what else was happening in that area? It could have been to fuck the police. It could have been that the city council there, foreclosed someone's home, condemned it, and they're pissed off and they decided to take revenge. It could be that they're far leftists. It could be they're environmental activists. Well, we're going to shut the power down. That'll reduce pollution for a few weeks. It could have been anything. It could have been some random psychopaths that got drunk and decided it was a good idea to play target practice with the transformers on the grid. It could have been glowing ones. It could have been foreign terrorists. It could have been a fucking ISIS sympathizer for all we know. Could have been an Al-Qaeda member that came across the porous southern U.S. border. Any of these things are possibilities. It's always possible that it was some far-right extremist, so-called, that hates drag performances involving children. But that's only one of 100 different possibilities. So why are these people even weighing in on it? They're just trying to swipe up the news cycle. And then the first level of people are politically motivated when they make claims like that they can't verify. The second wave are just clout seekers. They amplify the story because they know that their fans want to hear the bullshit, basically. It'd be funny if it turns out to be that some illegals that have ties to ISIS or something did this. Look for it to disappear from the news cycle and from these craptivist mouths very quickly. Let's see. Wicked Fair, please give my husband Beast a shout out. We love listening to your daily commentary together. Well, hello, Beast. Clank, clank. Reminder. Yeah, baby. Today I will remind them. Yeah. I make it extra creamy, by the way. Troy Neenan, Biden dies a day after the 2024 elections. Kamala is president. Yeah, I mean, well, Kamala is mad. Yeah, Kamala would be mad if that were to happen. Aaron Behringer, can I get a shout out for my favorite ragtime and novelty pianist, Foundering? Same name on Rumble, Odyssey, Twitch, and YouTube. He does parody songs in the style of Tom Lehrer. Oh, I've heard of him. Yeah, Poisoning Pigeons in the Park. That was a fun one. Ozzy's Robots. Do you think all the neo-Marxist influence that has infiltrated and permeated culture, education, and government was centrally directed foreign influence or a combination of factors? How is it eradicated? It's a combination of factors. Partially foreign, partially domestic, partially ideological, and partially, I don't know, extinctionist, I suppose, because Marxism tends to destroy your culture. It's eradicated by people taking more personal responsibility and doing their own thing and becoming more independent. The government deliberately tries to keep that from happening for a reason. Hunter Wadley, my brother is openly homosexual and thinks the left is cringe and ruining said group. They just really want normalcy. Talking about sexuality everywhere all the time is just strange to him. Yeah, I've got a gay relative who thinks basically the same way. He's not going to pride parades and shit like that. That's how I talk about my straightness. Like, you know, I'm super straight. I'm not into anything with a Y chromosome or a cock. But, you know, I don't make that a central aspect of my very existence. I don't say it on every video. Hey, by the way, guys, I'm straight. Hey, maybe it sounds like I'm compensating if I do. So, you know, try to avoid the cringe. Next news story. Broccoli and raspberries could give you COVID. Health experts warn after learning that virus can live on popular foods for as long as a week. The test found that coronavirus lived longer on produce with uneven surfaces. Well, yeah, that's a no-brainer because it can, you know, viruses and bacteria can get in little crevices and shit and be shielded from light and from heat and stuff like that a little bit longer. COVID was detected on peppers, ham, bread crust, and cheese for several days. Scientists have advised the risk to consumers remains very low. Notice how they put that in last. What this is that they're trying to convince you not to eat healthy foods, it seems. So basically, oh, uneven surface is bad. What's an even surface? Oh, food that comes in a box. Food that comes in a little plastic container with a foil on top, right? Canned goods and shit like that. Eat less healthy, folks. Fresh produce and freshly baked bread are going to kill you. That's the insinuation here. And it's horseshit, just to be clear. I'm not denying that there might be COVID particulates on these particular foods. How likely is it that a person is actually going to get sick from this? The article self-evidently claims it's pretty low. So why even make an article about it? To make people afraid. After all, the bug burgers, they come in a nice little box. There's no uneven surfaces. It's all plastic. It's all laminate and shit like that. That's okay. It's sort of like how fatness has been a comorbidity. By the way, I can say this on YouTube. This is established. Being obese is a comorbidity with COVID. You're more likely to die if you're overweight. It tends to overlap somewhat with age progression, but the overlap isn't the entire thing. But then the government told people not to go and exercise. It never made full sense. And I'm allowed to question that particular tactic at this time, even on YouTube. Although I have to mince words still, I believe. Let's see. Liam Hawkins, hello from Illinois, Sticks. I worked for a state rep here this past midterm, and Republicans lost bad here. Your vids kept me from becoming blackpilled. Should I move or keep trying to improve the state? Clank. Well, if you want a blue state that's becoming less blue, I guess New York is calling for you. Yeah, you should stand your ground. Not all hope is lost in any part of the country. Demographics change very quickly with regards to voting. Professor Plaguebat, that sounds like when tests were done that found COVID in Coca-Cola. I thought it was Red Bull that they did that with. Sticks a claws, only coal for Katie the Hobgoblin. Next news story. This one's funny. Iran says hijab law is under review as state media dismisses claims feared morality police has been abolished. Yes, they're far left police, morality police. You can't have an authoritarian system unless there's central control. Central control is an aspect of leftoidism. Just to be clear, Iran is a far left regime, not a far right one. They just use religion as a foil for their leftoidism. They're not going anywhere. This is a distraction. I'd like to point this out. A lot of people the other day were like huzzahing and celebrating, oh, Iran's government is backing down. The morality police will be reined in. They're not going to have a hijab law anymore. Women will be able to go out without the hijab. They'll be able to show their hair and shit. It was never going to happen. This is a distraction. This is to give people some hope so that some of the protesters will go home and say, okay, well, I guess we made our point. Get them off the streets, lock things down further, persecute a bunch of people, including the ringleaders of the evil protests and shit like that, to buy time. They're looking at mass protests all over the country. It's beginning to eat into the bottom line. It's beginning to threaten to delegitimize the regime. So they stop the protests by throwing some peanuts the protesters' way and distracting them. Meanwhile, they've killed hundreds of fucking people, to try to stop the protests. They've been raping people in retaliation, among other things. That all magically gets forgotten now, doesn't it? How very interesting. Apparently, my connection is unstable, according to StreamYard. Not sure why. Hopium Gardner, did you see Jean-Pierre's latest gaffe? We've created 10 million thousand jobs. Also, do you believe Elon could be Chinese? I don't care where he's from. I know he's from South Africa. I don't care about the ethnic component. And no, I didn't see that particular gaffe. Raisin, have you been following the El Salvador military action against the narcos? 10K troops seizing a city. Interesting turn of events. Yeah, I guess they got tired of the United States funding the narcos there, so they decided to take matters into their own hands. We'll see if there's regime change there in the next few years. Battle Elf, hey Sticks, remember when I advised you to divest in crypto a month before FTX collapse? Yeah, that's fine. I'm still holding on. I think that it's going to find its bottom at some point. I'm going to keep holding on to it because I have nothing to lose anyway. Hunter Wadley, the media says RSV cases are exploding amongst the very young, and boy, oh boy, do we have the solution for you. What's happening here, Sticks? RSV? I'm not sure what RSV is. You'll have to clue me in. Also, almost 6,000 people watching live. Michael Cricklow, what do you make of Florida's alleged reversal on Disney, especially Reedy Creek tax and DeSantis' denial of re-examining the policy? Who's lying? Well, I guarantee that Disney's lying. They've been doing that for a long time. Oh, respiratory virus? Oh, okay. Yeah, it's soaring among the youth because of immunoproblems from, well, I don't know if I'm allowed to say that on YouTube. Let me try to phrase this in a way that's, kosher for YouTube. How do I put this? Their immune systems are put off by a compounding variety of factors related to a lack of exercise and poor diet, which totally has nothing to do with any human response to a different virus, number one, and partially due to improper medical procedures that shall not be named. That's probably why. Jack Perry. The new B-21 sixth-generation bomber for the U.S. Air Force was just unveiled. Upgrades for F-15s and 16s and 18s. Cyber warfare upgrades for less money than an F-35. Excellent. We should upgrade the A-10 again and get that rolling. Stephen Duller. Sticks, could you try to reach out to the YouTuber Magister Clavis sometime? I think you guys would enjoy one another's company and knowledge pools. That'd be fun. Next news story. This is a tweet from Time. It's very funny because Time, one of those, legacy outlets that hates Twitter, once again making a tweet. They got massively ratioed on it. I didn't even bother to archive this one. You should pour in, if you have a Twitter account, go and ridicule them some more. I'm close to ratioing them, I think now too, actually, with my post. It's funny. Column, white women must do more to confront racism. Let's parse this apart. Firstly, I think white women should do whatever the fuck they want. And I pointed that out there. And that seems to be a popular mentality, unlike putting the onus on them. It's funny because some people there are feminists and they're saying, well, the patriarchy makes posts like this specifically to try to destroy feminism by causing infighting. This is not the action. This is not the patriarchy. What this is the legacy media trying to stir up shit and id poll in order to get more votes for their political allies, number one, and get more money is clickbait, number two. And the fact is that racism is fairly rare in the United States, much more so than it is in Europe or Africa or the Middle East or Asia or South America or Central America or basically anywhere else in the fucking goddamn world. The fact is that white women don't have to do jack shit except whatever the fuck they want to do. This is the way I look at it. Everyone's an individual. White, black, native, non-native, tall, short, male, female, penis enabled, penis disabled. I don't give a fucking shit. People should just do their own thing. And if everyone were to do that, there would be no problem with any form of bigotry. Why would the government and the legacy media not want that? Because it's part of their branding campaign. It's part of how you create brand loyalty. Our party stands for the white man, so white people donate to him. Our party stands for the Asian man, so they donate to him. Our party loves people from other countries, and so those people, the recent immigrants, they'll jump aboard. Our party doesn't want more immigrants, and they get money this way. They get power this way by splitting people apart. They've been doing this for centuries. They've been doing it longer than the United States has been around, by the way. There have been nativistic movements and open borders movements and shit like that. Look at the history of medieval Europe. Some of those countries basically said, come all ye faithful. We don't give a fucking shit as long as you're Christian, sometimes of certain denominations. No, you look different from us. We don't give a shit. Just settle down in this valley. Nobody's using it anyway. Kingdom of Poland was kind of like that for a while. During the medieval era, during the Black Plague, Jews kept getting pushed from place to place. Kingdom of Poland said, hey, come here, please. We need more people. You know, we're sparsely populated. Somebody's got to farm some potatoes around here. And they brought him in. Hence the diaspora that's so prevalent in the nation of Poland. And parts of what's now Germany, they didn't do so well later on as the people that were a bit further to the east. Till the Soviets came, then they did fucking worse. That's basically the sum and substance. I mean, the average person is not racist, sexist, etc. We make jokes about it online, and it's funny because it's unorthodox and because it's edgy and offensive. It's the whole point of humor generally. But in day-to-day life, like when I see a black person walking down the street, do I like walk to the other side of the street? No, I don't give a fucking shit. Okay, they're black. Who gives a fucking shit? I don't look down on anyone because they have a vagina and stuff like this. These people apparently do. That's all they can think about. It's an obsession with them. But remember, people like us that tell edgy jokes or whatever on a fucking YouTube or something, we're the problem. We're the ones that are filled with hate, filled with madness. Mikhail the Stray Cat over on Rumble. Hey, Sticks, got a question. Does Antifa now identify as commies, tankies, or libertarian Stalinist revolutionaries? I don't know. They usually claim that they don't even exist, which is even funnier. Last news story. This is just this is a post from Keem, and all he says is Gen Z. And this is, I guess, maybe from a TikTok video, I guess. I'm not 100% sure because I don't use TikTok. I'm not with the Zoomer thing with regards to that side of content creation because, you know, my attention span is longer than 90 seconds. I prefer live streaming. Like the internet is parsing between live stream and ultra short form. And the classic form of like 15-minute videos is, I think, dying somewhat, except on YouTube. I prefer the long form. If I have to choose one, I'm going to do live streaming over short form video. But it's some like, I guess, gothy chick. I don't know, high school or college or some shit. And I guess it's a screen from a TikTok video or Insta or something like that. Ways to make schools more vampire inclusive. Blood fountains, like water fountains, but with blood. I needed an explanation about, by the way. Blood breaks to drink blood. You know, you got to go to the bathroom and, you know, splash down some hemoglobin. Shady areas for us to hide from the sun. No garlic in the school meals. No mentions of God or Christianity. Now, firstly, I've got several takes on this. Firstly, please do not try to convince me that Gen Z is uniquely cringy with posts like this, because the millennials were arguably far worse. I would know. One time I dated a sanguinarian. Their furry thing is more millennial, I think, than Gen Z. The vampy sort of culture thing, what was it called? There was some forum for fucking vampires and vampire cosplay and roleplay. The fuck was it called? I can't remember what the fuck it was called, but it was definitely around when I was in my 20s, if not my teens. The kink fetish side of things, the LARPing, the cosplay, all of these things start with millennials. They don't start with Gen Z. If anything, these little morons, these little kids are trying to appropriate our cringe, and we must do something to stop them. We'll have to show them up. Get a bunch of people that are in their 30s together to be totally as cringe as possible and just lay waste to all of these things by making them uncool. You do not underestimate the power of millennials, young whippersnappers. Yeah, Vampire Freaks was the name of the forum. I can't fucking remember. Here's the thing, though. I don't see any problem with this. This is just some chick who's, I don't know, 20 or something like that, listing, some crazy off-the-wall shit. Those kind of like little cult identities have been around for a while. Have you seen Halloween costumes from the Victorian era? Don't tell me that Gen Z is the first cringe generation. They're the young generation. Of course they're going to be cringe. It's a given. What, we weren't cringe when we were younger? Now, look back at my videos from 2007 or 2008. Yeah, I was still already well-spoken. I still hold to many of the views that I had. Not quite as sophisticated now, were they? A little bit different. And, of course, everyone goes through that phase where they have something going on. What I analyze this is basically Gen Z has rediscovered Hot Topic goth. Well, that's, again, it's like a millennial thing. Like people that are 35, 40 years old remember that particularly. At what point are they going to start wearing Jinko jeans or something like that? I'm just waiting for that. Imagine if they go through a grunge phase, how funny that will be. Fucking Kurt Cobain posters and smoking weed. Well, I mean, they already do that, but that'd be funny as hell. I'm sorry, but I don't see anything uniquely cringy about this or anything particularly problematic. It reminds me of a lot of the shit that I saw from my fellow millennials back in the late 2000s, to tell the truth. I remember the sanguinarian thing, furries, everything on Tumblr and Reddit, by the way. Same shit, different asshole. Reality Paranormal. My first edited work is available on Amazon. It's a work about a man that deleted a lot of people and charged with lycanthropy in 1589. Search Katrina the Good on Amazon. I DM'd you a link. You inspire me. There, you got a shout out. Hope you sell many copies of your work. So search Katrina the Good on Amazon.com. Yeah, so Hot Topic goths are now back. Can't we have like the original gangsta, like, the late 70s, early 80s post-punk, sort of like the dark wave Batcave goths? If we can have that back, then definitely it'll be a better world. I remember we've gone through the vaporwave thing. We've kind of got a knockoff of the synth new wave thing already going on. In fact, it's still relatively popular. Why can't we have that cool shit back? Why can't we have real punk back, tell the system to fuck themselves instead of rambling online like pathetic losers about how others need to wear a face diaper? Lapse of apathy. Planking was pretty cringe. Yeah, Trudeau was doing that shit at one point. There's literally nothing new. Like the millennials didn't invent anything. The Zoomers aren't inventing anything. It's all a rehash of old things. When I go to the store, like the Netherlands is sort of like the hip Euro culture thing when it comes to style. And so there are a lot of like designer stores and shit like that. You get the Sting and bullshit. You've also got SHIB. Now, there's a place, I can't remember exactly what it's called, but it has Chinese knockoff clothing and half of it's like Hawaiian shirts. I'm glad to say that most of mine are actual vintage from the 1980s, but I digress. And I noticed like last year, it seemed like the clothing was very much like 70s-esque style, like the cut of the clothing, the coloration schemes and stuff. Very 70s. And of course, the 70s didn't bring anything original either. They were knockoffs of effectively the 1910s in some cases, including the fucking bell-bottoms. I happen to know a little bit about this subject, maybe more than I should. This year, it's sort of, I don't know, it's some of it's 60s retro. I can remember back around 2009, there was like an American Gothic style clothing revival. And I remember walking into several stores, and with my girlfriend at the time, I think. And the clothing looked like something like you'd see on Little House on the Prairie. It looked like Depression era or something. It was weird. By the way, here, Hawaiian shirts and leather jackets are still in style. I feel very much more on the inside as opposed to the outside of culture here. Yeah, there's plenty of fucking cringe. This chick should go to Hot Topic. I mean, that's a millennial thing. Have you even heard of Hot Topic? It'd be funny. The Gen Z, like Doom crowd, the Gen Z goth crowd doesn't even know that Hot Topic exists, maybe. That'd be fucking funny. Huns with guns. You take everything wrong with millennials. Amplify it 2 times, you get Gen Z. Yeah, but Gen Z will improve. The millennials are like the most irredeemable generation, in my opinion, and I happen to be one. I'm still in the minority among millennials with regards to many of my views. I think Gen Z will come around quicker than we did. The Grizzly, I normally don't blackpill, but sweet Jesus, the FTX scandal is like the Emperor from Star Wars reorganizing the Republic into the First Galactic Empire. I mean, how do we practically fight a faction like the Uniparty? Well, yeah, you do that however you think. By the way, no more Super Chats, please. I do have to keep it a bit short. Bara, Gen X had the metrosexuals in the mid-90s. Yes, and by the way, that sort of thing is reminiscent of like when I see people in their young, early 20s, late teens, and they've got like the fade haircut and the beard and stuff. They do look like they're replicating the Metro craze from the 90s, just to be clear. Defying the meta. They were called Death Children. They sauntered around reading Anne Rice books and worshiping Trent Reznor. Yeah, I remember that shit. Moby Hornet, since you're back into coffee, you should have Quartering and Adam Krigler fight to the death to sponsor you with their own brands of coffee. Yeah, I'll keep with the instant until the French press comes, which it could literally come today. Anyway, I'm going to go off here. I got some other shit to do. Good live stream, though. Definitely higher energy now that I'm imbibing coffee throughout the day. So you can look forward to more high energy sticks. That's about all.